June 18th, 1815. French cannons thunder across the muddy fields of Waterloo, Belgium. 140,000 men clash in a bloody battle that will decide the fate of Europe. Napoleon Bonaparte stakes everything on one final bloody victory, and this is his ultimate showdown. But let's change one thing. Instead of Wellington's troops rolling over the ridge at Mount St. Jean is something no one understands. A 73-ton M1A2 Abrams SEP V3 main battle tank from 2020 dropped into a battle over 200 years before its time. So what happens when the most advanced tank on Earth is unleashed during one of history's most decisive battles? Can it single-handedly stop Napoleon's forces, or is it just one steel monster against 72,000 trained soldiers? First, let's take a look at what we just parked in the 19th century. The M1A2 Abrams SCP V3 is America's apex predator of ground warfare. This beast stretches 32 feet long, weighs more than 40 horses combined, and moves at 42 miles per hour. Faster than any cavalry charge ever recorded. Its main gun is a 120mm smoothbore cannon that can accurately destroy targets 2.5 miles away. That's 5 times the range of Napoleon's best artillery. It fires armor-piercing rounds that travel at 5,500 feet per second, so fast they arrive before you hear the shot. But the terrifying part is that the M1028 canister rounds turn the main gun into the world's deadliest shotgun, spraying 1,100 tungsten balls that shred everything within 600 meters. The tank carries a 50 caliber heavy machine gun that can punch through multiple men with each bullet, plus 2 7.62mm machine guns that fire 900 rounds per minute. Combined, that's 13,000 rounds of ammunition ready to turn Napoleon's packed formations into Swiss cheese. For protection, the Abrams uses composite armor with depleted uranium layers that can stop even modern anti-tank missiles. Musket balls would literally bounce off. Even Napoleon's biggest 24-pound cannonballs couldn't dent it. The crew sits behind blast-proof doors, thermal imaging that sees through everything including smoke and darkness, and a fire control computer that calculates perfect shots while moving at full speed. But Napoleon isn't planning to lose. The French emperor commands 72,000 of Europe's finest soldiers, 48,000 infantry armed with smoothbore muskets effective at around 50 yards, as well as 11,000 elite cavalry with sabers and lances, and 250 bronze cannons that fire solid iron balls up to a mile, if they're lucky. His tactics are legendary. Group up all of your best guns, bombard the enemy in a frenzy, send in infantry columns to punch through their lines, follow with cavalry to exploit the breakthrough, then unleash the Imperial Guard, the best of the best, for the killing blow. These tactics conquered Europe and crushed Austrians, Russians, and Prussians alike. Napoleon's generals, Ney, d'Erlon, and Riel, are masters of combined arms warfare. Their soldiers march in perfect formation, bayonets gleaming, drums beating, eagles held high. They have no idea what's about to hit them. 11:30 a.m. Napoleon orders his grand battery of 80 guns to commence firing. The cannons roar in sequence, sending iron balls bouncing toward Wellington's ridge. They're aiming for massed infantry that isn't there, just one lone metal beast that their spotters can't quite identify. The cannonballs that do connect ring off the Abrams armor like church bells. The tank commander watches through thermal sights as French gunners frantically reload. He designates targets with a laser rangefinder, then the gunner squeezes the trigger. The 120mm gun roars. 2.5 miles away, a French 12-pounder and its 6-man crew simply cease to exist. The explosion is so violent that neighboring gun crews abandon their positions. The tank systematically deletes Napoleon's artillery. Every 3 seconds, another cannon disappears in fire and smoke. French artillery officers scream for their men to keep fighting, but what's the point? Their shots do nothing while death reaches out from beyond their range. 1 p.m. Marshal Ney watches his artillery die through his telescope. Napoleon orders him to take the Allied center with d'Erlon Corps, 18,000 infantry advancing in massive columns, shoulder to shoulder, bayonets fixed. The French drums beat. Eagles rise above the ranks. Thousands of men march toward glory. The Abrams loader prepares a canister round, and the tank rolls down behind the ridge, leaving only its turret visible. At 500 meters, the gunner fires. Imagine 1,100 tungsten balls traveling at supersonic speed through packed ranks of men. The front of d'Erlon's column disintegrates into limbs, mist, and chunks of ripped-up soil. Hundreds of men vanish in a cone of destruction. The drums stop. Their confidence dies. The coaxial machine machine gun opens up next. 900 rounds per minute sweep across the French ranks like an invisible scythe. Men fall in windows, entire companies collapsing in seconds. The neat columns dissolve into panic. Soldiers trip over the dead, trampling wounded comrades, throwing away muskets to run faster. Darlin tries to rally his men for another charge, but the tank spots him on horseback, waving his sword, and a single 50 caliber burst deletes him, his horse, and 2 nearby officers. The attack collapses into full retreat. 3:30 p.m. Napoleon watches his infantry streaming back in disorder. It's time for the cavalry. His magnificent heavy cavalry that shattered every army in Europe. 5,000 horsemen form up. Cuirassiers in steel breastplates, lancers with pennants flying, dragoons with sabers gleaming. Marshal Ney himself led the charge. The ground shakes under 20,000 hooves. It's the most magnificent cavalry charge in history. A steel avalanche of men and horses thundering toward Wellington's Ridge. The Abrams crew switches to high explosive rounds. The first shell detonates in the middle of the cavalry formation, sending horses and riders cartwheeling through the air. The second turns a squadron of cuirassiers into red mist. The machine gun joins in. Horses scream and tumble. Riders are torn from saddles. The magnificent charge becomes a horror show as the front ranks collapse and their rear ranks crash into them. Horses refuse to advance toward the roaring metal monster spitting fire. Within minutes, less than 500 cavalry remain from the 5,000 who charged. 4 p.m. The Prussians should be arriving to reinforce Wellington, but they're not needed. Napoleon's army is broken. Dead men and horses carpet the valley. Survivors huddle behind any cover they can find, refusing orders to advance. Napoleon has one card left, his Imperial Guard, the Immortals. 3,000 of France's finest soldiers who've never known defeat. If anyone can take that demonic machine, it's them. The Guard advances in perfect order, bearskin hats tall, muskets at the shoulder. These are the men who've marched from Moscow to Madrid. They fear nothing. The tank has been waiting for this. The crew has saved ammunition specifically for the Guard. As they march up the slope, the Abrams unleashes everything. The main gun fires canister shots. Both machine guns pour continuous fire. It can only be described as an execution. The Imperial Guard, the unbreakable, the immortal, the pride of France, lasts exactly 90 seconds. When the smoke clears, they're gone. Not retreating, not regrouping, gone. 5 p.m. Absolute guttural fear spreads through the French army like wildfire. If the Imperial Guard is broken, the battle is lost. Napoleon's entire army dissolves into panic. The Abrams pursues, crushing fleeing soldiers under its treads, machine gunning any unit that tries to rally. Napoleon himself barely escapes in his carriage as a 120mm shell obliterates his command post. By sunset, the French army that conquered Europe has been destroyed by a single tank with 4 crew members. The Battle of Waterloo is over. Napoleon's empire is finished, and somewhere in Belgium sits a tank that can't be resupplied for another 200 years. So, could a modern tank succeed in taking on Napoleon and all of his forces at Waterloo? Yes. And it would be a bloodbath. Napoleon's few remaining forces would never forget the horrors they saw unfold in front of them and would tell stories of the ironclad beast for the rest of their lives. Or what do you think would happen? And if you're curious what would happen if a modern destroyer fought the Spanish Armada, check out the video on screen now. Thanks for watching.